Okay, so we've all just seen the latest MetaQuest gaming showcase and had a look at the trailers for all the new games announced. Doc, Neale, and I will go through each game, showing you the trailer and sharing our thoughts on each. Enjoy the video, and remember to let us know your thoughts about the games in the comments. So, here we go. First up, we've got Samba Di Amigo coming fall 2023.
Are you ready?
I was really I'm surprised this has taken a while, such a long time to kind of crop up for VR, because it seems custom made for it. I don't know if you played. I think I played it on the Dreamcast with the Maraca controllers.
I remember hearing about it on the Dreamcast, and I had a Dreamcast, but I never did get the controllers or play the game.
Well, I didn't when I had a Dreamcast, but there was a mate of mine who worked in the games industry, and I absolutely loved it. And I remember, it's probably the last time I saw him, he got quite furious because I said, as a musician, it's incredibly frustrating because it doesn't seem to follow the beat. You know, there wasn't that kind of I'm on the beat kind of feel to it, which of course is the opposite of something like Beat Saber or whatever. So when they announced this, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I thought my playing experience with Samba Di Amigo is that it was a bit shit. So, but I was really surprised by the video for this. I think it looks really, really good fun, and it looks like they put loads more stuff in it to make it kind of VR worthy. It's not like a sort of like just a lazy Dreamcast port or whatever. So I think I'm sort of cautiously optimistic about this. I mean, as ever, the music on this sort of thing just sounds hateful, but you know. I played that one quite extensively and fell out with a friend over it because I didn't think that it was very. I love the idea and the style of it and the monkeys, but I just didn't like the actual game. But for me, with the Quest controllers, if this comes out and it's you can play music like a musician and it's on the beat, which that's like standard, should be standard for a rhythm game.
Yes.
I think it's going to be good fun.
Then we've got I Expect You to Die, free, cog in the machine. The evil Dr. Zor has a dastardly new scheme, and it's up to you and your incredible espionage skills to stop them. As with previous installments of the franchise, it's a single-player puzzle game, and it's coming in summer of 2023.
I'm a butler.
You'll either prove her wrong,
Whoa. Ow.
or prove her right. You'll die in that second scenario.
Once you're dead, everyone will see just how superior my robots are to human agents.
Hey, you got some nickel. Do it again and you'll have 10 cents.
I can't say enough good things about I Expect You to Die anyway. I think they're incredibly likable games.
Two games were great.
They're just always so imaginative, and they've got such a sense of style. They know what they're doing. That's what I mean. I think I played I Expect You to Die originally when I had a Vive on PC VR, and I just think they're brilliant games, and there's no reason to think this one would be any different. I like the idea of I like the idea of the robot training thing. I think it's really clever. But I mean, they could just make more levels for I Expect You to Die, and I'd be really happy. There's no reason to think this is going to be anything other than just bloody lovely. So
Shell Games have been really kicking ass with that series.
Definitely.
Next up, we've got Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire. This is another title by Shell Games, and it's supposed to be a suspenseful single-player jump scare game where you have to slay vampires in their sleep before they become too powerful to defeat. We still don't know when it's getting released. It was just a teaser trailer, really. It didn't show us much. There was like a door creaking open and you saw a vampire for a second. Right. The trailer really didn't, it wasn't a trailer. It was like a teaser, and it didn't really show us much at all. The only reason there's any cause to look forward to it is because it's also by Shell Games.
Yeah.
As I recall, it just said Shell Games, and I was like, okay, so it's going to be a quality title, regardless of what it is. The teaser didn't really, we saw nothing. We don't know what kind of gameplay it is. We don't know what kind of game it is.
Apart from it being from a decent developer that we kind of trust, there's just nothing to go on from a teaser trailer. Just
No, there's nothing to go on.
If them doing vampires will probably be great, but we've no idea what it's going to be like. So it could be, you know, I expect you not to die.
Not to die.
I expect you to be undead.
I expect you to immortal. Could be anything. That's true.
It's another thing to look forward to as opposed to dismiss out of hand. So, you know,
that's true.
A cautious thumbs up just for that.
That's true. Shell Games, they get a thumbs up, a provisional thumbs up until we actually see a trailer or play the game.
Next up, Ghostbusters, Rise of the Ghost Lord. We've all been waiting a long time for this. It's being developed by Dreams. You can play solo or as a team with up to 3 friends in co-op, coming fall of 2023.
Story. 1984. My research brought me to Columbia University, where I studied under the Ghostbusters. They dismissed my work, called it dangerous. But in San Francisco, I can show them. With its untapped cauldron of the undead. Where others saw fear, I saw subjects. How could I know my research would stir a dormant evil? Alcatraz. Tortured souls, whose guilt I could drain and drain again. Their pain, the price of progress. My dear assistant Katie understands. Soon everyone will understand. Especially you, Ghostbusters, with your silly parlor tricks. You will see the progress I have made. Know the power I have harnessed. You will realize that I, Gustav Hookfather, am the genius who gave the world endless, clean...
We're not going to get, like, the original Ghostbusters cast. You're not going to get, you know...
Are they not, getting any of the original cast members to do voiceover?
All I know about this game is what I've seen on this video.
Okay.
And I think some of it is exciting. You know, it'd be great if you get to drive Ecto-1 and use the backpack and everything. There's some things which will be
it's multiplayer,
a no-brainer.
Casting in multiplayer should be a fun experience.
It should be. I'm still, you know what I'm like about multiplayer games anyway. The only one I've really genuinely enjoyed for years has been Breaches, which is fantastic. But you have to be a sort of certain person to play that multiplayer. You know.
Okay.
You know, if you're with a good group of people, I think. I mean, it might be a nice thing for the channel to do together. I think, like, if we can get like a Ghostbusters crew together for it, that'll be some good times, I think. But yeah.
Okay. It's Dreams, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, which is another thing.
That,
yes.
You know, that's a good sign.
Yes, Dreams, love them. Should be fantastic. And it's Ghostbusters, which, as I say, there's a bit of me still that's 8 years old, and you can put that the Ghostbusters music on, and I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. I am. And they showed quite a bit of the game, I think, in that advert. It was surprising that they showed so much.
Underdogs, all in caps. As the blurb says, wrap yourself in 5 tons of metal and go smashing through an underground scene of pit fights. It's single player and it's coming in early 2024.
Nah, this the jungle out here, bro. If we want to get into New Braca, we're gonna have to fight like f***ing animals. Watch out, madman, no madman, and I got the style like Gangnam. Bang bang in a my gangland, turn man upside down like a handstand. Don't this man, me not use this man. Man I'm on arms like a wristband. Man walk none of them boy can't withstand. Them man are minimal, something like beautiful. Spread them gifts, we like this beautiful. Human as stuff, all like minerals. Send for your army, what's man killable? With man syllables. I want to some of them, I think of some joke thing. Nah, sir. Watch out.
Pete is super excited about. You less so. Underdogs. I thought Underdogs looked cool. And I thought it looked cool. The music was pumping, the art style was cool, the idea. I mean, it was a well-directed trailer, for whatever that's worth. The art was good, pretty action-packed. I don't know how much it told us about the game. It just felt like a sort of arena fighter with mechs, and you could stuff with your arm, or maybe attach weapons, or you had a claw and you had a gun. It was pretty fast paced, and it looked like you either were attacked by smaller creatures or all those little sort of robotic dogs or whatever, and then you had the big bosses. The trailer looked good, and like I said, Pete is super excited about it. You less so.
Well, look, just for context, I'm sat here in a waistcoat and a pocket watch. Within seconds of the trailer starting, I very much felt like they weren't trying to advertise this to me at all, right? And then people are saying, well, why review like VR at all? Surely you should crawl back to your sort of Victorian lab. And no, but the thing is, I'm not a big mech guy. The whole thing had the whiff of like sort of hipster esports to it to me. And it looks very polished compared to an awful lot of other stuff out there. It has a definite sense of style to it.
It does look polished.
It's very, very confident and very kind of, it does look very, very slick. I'm probably going to be eating my top hat when it comes out, and I'll probably think, oh, this is fantastic, and why didn't anyone tell me? But it just at the moment, that just doesn't feel for me. But that's not to say that it's not of inherent quality or value. So I hope this works out for Pete and the populace in general.
The only title I remember that these guys had developed before was Racket NX.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
NFL Pro Era, the next evolution. We don't have a trailer for this. It's an expansion for the existing game, promising more than just a roster update. Expect an expanded focus on multiplayer, new modes, new features, and more, whatever that means. Next, we've got Racket Club. Racket Club features a brand new built for VR racket sport. You can play it single player, you can hop online and play pickup games with people around the world, and you can hang out and socialize courtside in between matches at a sports complex. It's for 1 to 4 players, and we still don't have a release date.
I don't know how to feel about Racket Club. I generally like sports games. I can't remember who the developer was. Who's the developer for Racket Club? It was one of the better developers. But I don't know. My first impression when I looked at the trailer for Racquetball is that it felt claustrophobic. All the courts that you seem to be playing in were tiny. And I know they've sort of done it maybe that way so that it's real room scale, but
yeah, sure.
But when I saw some of the like multiplayer segments of the trailer with like 2 guys standing right next to each other in front of 2 guys standing next to each other, and all of them looked to be within arm's reach, and I'm like, how are you playing, like racquetball when everybody's like literally like feels like within arm's reach? It felt claustrophobic from the trailer. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say. I don't know if it's representative of how it's going to feel when you're inside, looking from your first person point of view. So maybe my impression is miscalculated. I have no idea.
I mean, I have tennis is one of those weird ones that kind of sidesteps my aversion to virtual sports. I think it's everybody can kind of equate what the controller to what you're doing in the game. That's cool. Sure. But you're right. There's a kind of, it just felt a little bit like
didn't it?
Which is strange because I'm always complaining about like there's a lot of sports games. I mean, the house I'm in at the moment, it's sort of tricky to have like a decent session on Beat Saber without feeling like I'm going to like knock somebody out or knock something over. Yeah. It just, so there's a lot to be said for a game which is sort of
designed for a small
controlled space. So I can only be open-minded and say very best of luck to them.
We'll see how it goes.
Vampire the Masquerade Justice. You're a vampire. You strike from the shadows and drink the blood of both mortal and vampire prey. It's a first-person single-player adventure RPG set in the world of darkness, coming fall 2023.
Hiding in the night. I didn't want to get dragged into this. But the guilty must be punished. You do well to remember that. Because if you don't, I'll make things very...
The trailer looked excellent. The
really
graphics did look like Dishonored. It looked like the first Dishonored, the same sort of graphical style. And the game felt a little bit like it took from Dishonored in terms of how it was played. It looked like you had some flexibility in terms of how you're doing things. And it looked really excellent. But I think the proviso here is that I'm also not sure the gameplay that we saw was Quest 2. Me and Pete were speculating that the footage looked like maybe this was Quest 3 footage.
Right.
Maybe, they've got a dev kit, they're putting it together. Because also at the end, I think it actually said coming to Quest 2 and 3. And it made us sort of suspect that the footage that we saw in the trailer, this footage that we're looking at in the trailer, which does look really good, was not Quest 2 footage, especially when they were like casting these spells and you see these swirls of like smoke traveling and like I don't know if the Quest 2 can pull it off the way it looked like it was. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, potential dishonesty aside, it does look like a fantastic game. You're right. I'm not sure it's going to look like that on Quest 2. Long ago, abandoned. I'm always really heartily surprised when there's some really nice graphics on the Quest, and I think it's in the eye. I think you can sidestep a lot of it if the gameplay's there. And to be honest, if it successfully sells a narrative, long form adventure, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was it's got a deliberate Dishonored vibe to it. Deliberate Dishonored vibe.
Okay, you do think it's deliberate.
And it's, if you're going to imitate something, then that's a good thing to imitate.
Yeah.
And at best, I loved going back to flat gaming for a while. I thought I really loved the first Shadow of Mordor, the Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Because it was a rip-off of Assassin's Creed. I mean, it was Assassin's Creed.
The combat system was definitely the combat system took a lot from Arkham.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. But they were copying some good things, but also it had an identity and a vibe of its own. And I think at best, I mean, Vampire Masquerade has had some very good video games and had some very bad ones as a universe. But they seem to be going. They seem to be going in the right direction and chasing the right goals. It could be the equivalent of, a Shadow of Mordor to Dishonored kind of thing. So I'm very cynical and I don't like looking forward to things. But of all the videos, for me personally, of all the videos on this lineup, that's the game that I'm really looking forward to trying most, because it really does. I love Dishonored. I love Thief.
The trailer looked excellent.
And if it lives up to the trailer, just on a gameplay, I mean, even if it doesn't end up looking like that, if it lives up to the trailer, I'm really, really looking forward to that. Really.
Yeah. I'm expecting that maybe this was Quest 3 footage and that maybe the Quest 2 footage is going to be a bit of a downgrade, but maybe not too much, because the art style still sort of looks like it'll fit on Quest 2, but maybe less detail, maybe less particle effects, or, maybe, I don't know, less fidelity on those creepy 3D like spells and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looked excellent. It looked potentially excellent.
Completely agreed.
That's true.
Dungeons of Eternity is a 1 to 3 player co-op dungeon crawling RPG. It utilizes physics-based combat and randomized dungeons for what should be an endless immersive RPG experience, coming sometime in 2023.
Oh yes. I was very proud of my 8-year-old because when we watched the preview for this, he actually used the word generic for the first time. So I suppose that's
Oh god. Okay.
You know, it's a good thing of sorts. It looks impressive. It looks graphically impressive.
Yeah.
It also looks almost aggressively generic to me. Like, and I don't really ever understand why someone will make a game either flat or VR with that sort of level of total genericism in, or like, so, you know, you already know kind of how it's going to play. Maybe there's some massive surprises in what it does. There's something to be said for a solid experience. It just gives you exactly what it says on the tin. But for me,
I was about to say, I don't mind generic if the game mechanics are good, if it feels good, if it's a great gameplay experience. I mean, ideally, I'm overjoyed when something isn't generic. Like, you know, you get these occasional surprises and it just blows you out of water. It's unlike anything you've ever played before, and those are wonderful. But yeah, if it's, I mean, actually, I just think, you know, if it's done well, I keep thinking of, you know, George Pulte and the 36 Dramatic Situations, and you can't expect every movie to be original. And as long as it does a good job, as long as the nitty gritty of it is actually good, then I'm okay with it.
I still, especially with fantasy settings though,
they
this
tend
one
to follow the same.
This now, normally I don't do notes for these sort of things. I just respond to the videos. We have a chat about them. Blah, blah, blah. This is actually the reason why I started making notes for this video, because I thought at the time Dungeons of Eternity sounds so generic that I'm going to forget what that was.
The
That's
name
what I mean.
itself is
even the name itself.
Yeah, it's like when I was doing a review of Iron Man, I was joking about how generic the name was. But yeah. It was a good game, but it's just the name Dungeons of Eternity is could have been generated by AI on a bad day.
Yes, it is. So generic, the generic nature of it aside, as I say, it was so generic that it actually made my 8-year-old call it generic, which and he loves Fortnite, which is like, you know, but it does look really impressive. It does look really, if you know what it does. It looks really good. So I'd no doubt have a decent couple of hours for that when it comes out, if it's as good as it is on the trailer. So, you know.
Okay, there you go.
The Seventh Guest. Reborn for VR and promising to be spooky but never gory, The Seventh Guest promises to be a thrilling amusement park ride you can experience at home. The developers say it's packed with puzzles that pay homage to the original point-and-click adventure while taking full advantage of VR, coming sometime in 2023.
It's you! Don't be afraid. I'm here to help. There are many like me here, trapped in this house.
This is part of a series, isn't it? Or is it? I can't remember. Or is it adapted from a book? Or
it was. I'm not sure about that. I know that it was. It was one of those things that always comes up if you say like Myst. Then it's like, oh, if you like Myst, why not try Seventh Guest? And if those two things are not really very similar, but it was a CD-ROM PC
Netflix
game.
Recommendations. It was
it was a CD-ROM PC game.
Oh wow!
And I think it was around the same. It was around the same time as Myst. I remember my dad playing it and being really, really into it. And where it diverges from Myst is that it's nowhere near as well written, and B, it has these live action video sequences.
Okay.
One of the only things I remember about the PC version was that the live action video was, as you might expect from something which is early 90s CD-ROM, ghastly, like really badly acted. To the point at which I thought it was going to have some sort of CG. I mean, this is back in the day as well, and but the actual setting of it, which is like a creepy hotel full of secrets and puzzles to solve, very much kind of my wheelhouse. And what amazed me about this was that it looked like they've just rebuilt it from the ground up, but the video sequences still look cheesy, but they're obviously new video sequences. But the graphics it's probably the PC version that we're seeing, but the setting is brilliant, and it looks like they've actually recreated the puzzles and things from what I remember, they look very different in VR.
Okay.
And I think this could be one to watch. I think there was a sequel on the original PC version called the 11th Hour, which very much continued the same thing.
So it's 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, the 7-Eleven trilogy. It doesn't. The video didn't tell us very much, but it I'm very glad that they've abandoned. I mean, they probably couldn't use the original video acting, but
yeah, maybe licensing issues, and it might.
But I was quite surprised at how surprisingly kind of sumptuous it looked. Really, I'm sort of cautiously optimistic as someone who sort of, I'm not even a fan of the original, but this looks really good. I think VR might be like a good platform for it.
Next up, Arizona Sunshine 2, a direct sequel to Arizona Sunshine, and it picks up approximately 1 year after the end of the original game. But hey, this time, Sonny's got a dog. Coming sometime in 2023.
What's going on, Fred? Hold up. Allow me to show you how it's done. Nice, but... oh, yeah, that's gonna do. Watch and learn. What the... Get a room. You know that only counts as one.
Stranger Things VR. Players will invade the dreams and memories of fan-favorite characters and harness telekinetic powers to possess minds and battle various creatures. It's coming from highly regarded developer Tenderclaws, responsible for the virtual reality games, and the Under Presents. It's a single-player game coming in the fall of 2023.
It looks good. It's quite surprising the perspective they've picked for it in terms of the character. You're playing like what seems to be like a baddie in Stranger Things. The graphics look great, but again, preview videos.
Yeah.
But it could be a classy proposition. I can't remember who the developers are, but I remember thinking, that's possibly a safe pair of hands. Yeah. Marlo watched the video with me, and he said...
Wait a minute, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I remember thinking the same when I saw the developers, but now I don't remember what the name was. I don't remember who it was.
Of course, being incredible professionals, then that's just something that didn't make it onto my notes. But yeah, again, it's an interesting take on it. But I just feel like it might be spoilery for me for the actual series. So I was trying not to pay too close attention in case I start second guessing what happens in the latest series of Stranger Things. But I'd imagine if you're a Stranger Things fan looking for a VR fix, it might just be like a really good game.
Tenderclaws have been fantastic. You know how I feel about the Under Presents.
I do, and I completely agree with you.
I think it's one of the most amazing things that have happened on Quest. So yeah, very good developers. Actually, it's an exceptionally good hands, I think.
So, yes, I knew there was a reason why I'd kind of thought, oh, okay, and sat up and took notice rather than just think, because if it was the guys that did Jurassic Park or whatever, then I would be expecting more sort of generic, sort of
exactly.
thing. Yeah. But no, that's got some interesting minds behind it then. So
yeah,
yes, very.
I'm not even a big fan of Stranger Things. I think I only saw season 1.
Right.
I don't know. I just didn't.
You bounced off it, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't keep me going. But yeah, Tenderclaws for me, I'm back on board. I'm happy to play whatever they make. Honestly.
Yeah. Agreed.
Attack on Titan: Unbreakable. Based on the best-selling manga series, Attack on Titan VR Unbreakable will feature both single-player and co-op modes, and will be available in both Japanese and English dubbed and subbed, coming this winter.
First, we had a teaser that literally just showed us the name of the game, and now we're seeing a completely pre-rendered video that literally shows nothing. It wasn't even that good for a pre-rendered video. I remember watching it, and I'm like, for a pre-rendered video, that's not even attempting to look like gameplay. It didn't look good, and I was like, what?
It's a really strange one. This Attack on Titan is something which will make an amazing game, and certainly an amazing VR game. But the fact that they aren't showing us that,
they're not showing us anything,
just makes me think, what? And as you say, if you're going to make shit up, if you well, then why not just make something up?
If it's going to be pre-rendered video, then go ahead, blow our minds, But
I'm sort of refusing to engage with it until we see some actual gameplay and some idea what it might be like.
Unless it's a very odd version of like under promise and over deliver, like we'll do a rendered video, but we're gonna make it look really, really bad so that when people see the gameplay eventually very pleasantly surprised. It'll be a first in gaming history. People are used to seeing downgrades from the pre-renders to the actual gameplay. Maybe this will be the only time in gaming history where the gameplay looks better than the pre-rendered. The antithesis to Watch Dogs.
That would actually make some sort of sense, but more so than them just releasing a disappointing pre-rendered video.
It looked terrible.
It really did look.
It looked like really low res textures and like blurry textures and low res and nothing about it good. It looked like a low poly, low resolution texture preview. I just didn't understand why it was released. That's a very, very weird thing to do for a trailer.
It's the sort of preview that makes you think, would it have served them better not to say anything until there's some actual footage? I
almost think so. I almost think it would have been better off just having the developer come on and talk about what kind of stuff they're going to put in the game and what kind of game it is. That would have at least catalyzed people's imaginations to create something in their heads that potential for something better. But it did not look good.
A pre-rendered video which doesn't seem to showcase any potential is sort of going some very strange. Very strange.
Really, it was a very weird pre-rendered trailer.
Bulletstorm VR. Kicking and screaming from 2011, Bulletstorm is coming to the MetaQuest. Skill shots new and old, as well as the action-packed story, all of it recreated from the ground up to take advantage of VR. It's Bulletstorm in VR, coming sometime in 2023.
I'm excited about Bulletstorm. I don't know if you've played it. I played it on Xbox 360. It was good, goofy, silly, bloodthirsty, gory fun. you went around killing people, and you had those lasso sort of guns where you could grab people and then kick them and fly them up in the air and then shoot them while they were up. It was just stupid, gory fun fest.
I liked Bulletstorm. I got sort of bored of it by the end. But I remember, I first heard that they were doing this in VR from you, and I thought, that's fantastic, because it always felt a little bit more like a proof of concept, an actual proper game to me. It is silly, and there's so much potential there. And I was really excited for the reveal video, but if you weren't preloaded with your knowledge of Bulletstorm as it was on the 360 or whatever, I think this video is really disappointing and empty looking.
Why?
And I don't think there's anything about Bulletstorm that I would remember about playing Bulletstorm that seems to be there. It didn't seem over the top. It didn't seem it really it worried me that they're selling they seem to be selling the story of Bulletstorm
The
more
story
than
was completely forgettable. I don't remember anything about it.
I'm not bothered about the world of Bulletstorm. As you say, it's about using electric whips to sort of dismember people in creatively stupid ways.
Yeah.
But there didn't seem to be any of that kind of energy in the VR preview for me. I'll just say I think Bulletstorm VR is a brilliant idea. I don't think this video showcased how brilliant it could be. Okay. I'm just going to wait and reserve judgment until I've actually played it, because I was hyped for it, then saw the video and felt considerably less hyped about it.
Okay.
So we shall see. And Marlowe's take on it was that the description that I gave him before we watched it was that it didn't match the game that we saw. So we kind of agree on that. I mean, Marlowe has no frame of reference other than he was really excited to see people being like, destroyed in interesting ways. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if they've captured that one. We shall see. We'll see.
We shall see. Interestingly, Pete told me the only part of the trailer that got him actually hyped for the game is towards the end when we saw that they were attacking this big giant beast, and he's like, "That's the part that reeled him in." Like just going.
Oh right, okay.
And stuff.
Well,
didn't work for him.
I don't remember that at all about the flat version. I don't remember anything other than using bits of people's limbs to creatively destroy other people. So we'll see. We'll see.
We will see. Assassin's Creed Nexus VR. It's finally real. They finally admitted that it's happening. But they didn't show us anything. It's just a teaser. It's just teaser, and it says at the end, what was it? It said something like more details in the Ubisoft game showcase or whatever on June 12th, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So maybe, hopefully, then we're going to see some kind of footage, or I don't know what we're going to see. But apparently all we are getting from a meta showcase is a little teaser screen that the game exists, Nexus.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed in VR should be a no-brainer. With it being called Assassin's Creed Nexus, with my cynical hat up, well, it's the only hat I've got. In fact, it's a cynical scalp I've got. I'm expecting it to be kind of like a VR training, everything's a blue outline. I don't think it's going to be a historical, graphically rich historical traipse around. I think it's going to be a kind of
the training missions in Metal Gear Solid, where everything's
that's it being called AC Nexus. I really hope I'm wrong, but there's still some inherent value in that if they actually capture an Assassin's Creed. I'm still waiting. I was massively disappointed by God, I can't even remember its name now. The
Splinter
VR
Cell
stealth game. No. Although I understand that's on the way for VR, isn't it?
No, that got cancelled. They kept.
That's right.
And they canceled Splinter Cell, which I was really excited about a Splinter Cell game in VR. I was more excited about that in VR than I was about Assassin's Creed.
What's the VR stealth game that I found?
You're talking about Aspire?
Aspire, that's right. Yeah, that was going to be Splinter Cell in VR, and it wasn't, and it's massively disappointing. I don't understand what is so difficult about doing it well, because it had promise, but it just
and Aspire 2 looks great on paper.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, it looks like it should be a wonderful game, but I don't know what it is. Maybe not enough play testing, maybe not enough work on the mechanics and the actual. I don't know what's wrong. It just. The first one didn't feel so great, and the second one was better polished, but it's still not. It doesn't feel good. It's not. I don't know. For something, it just doesn't work.
The other thing about that is Assassin's Creed is different things to different people. And my one of my brothers is a huge fan of Assassin's Creed, but doesn't really think that Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey are kind of proper Assassin's Creed games. He loves them. He thinks they're great games.
Yeah, they're not really. The real quote unquote Assassin's Creed games stopped with, I think, maybe Assassin's Creed 3 or as soon as it went into, I think, Black Flag especially, or Assassin's Creed 4, it just became this open world UB game. You know, like all the Ubisoft open world games became the same thing, you know, including Far Cry. You climb the towers, expose the landscape, you do a million side quests. It stopped being about, and it started relying too much on the fighting. It became a bit like an Arkham game where you're fighting all the time instead of being an assassin.
That's my hope for Assassin's Creed. It will be a stealth-heavy assassin game.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what to expect other than, as I say, I'm kind of expecting some maybe VR stealth mission-y side. Like the training in Metal Gear is kind of a good. What's in my head for Assassin's Creed Nexus?
You think that's
is
what
kind
it
of
might turn out to be?
What I would really genuinely love is for like some like a first-person Assassin's Creed 2. Don't think that's going to happen. No. And also, I'm not pinning all of my hopes and dreams on it being like a stealth game per se, because that just doesn't seem to be. There's a stealth game waiting to be made in VR that Aspire was trying to be and failed miserably. Yeah. Splinter Cell would have been perfect for that, basically.
I really think they should have made,
and I am waiting for that because there have been hints of it. There's that excellent one that I reviewed. That I can't remember the name of it.
Covert Ops.
Yes, the kayak.
Covert Ops was great in the kayak.
Yes, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
and that was a genuinely good stealth game.
Yeah,
but you know, and being in a canoe it wasn't necessarily as constricting as you might expect.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very, very clever and did something unique. So Assassin's Creed Nexus, we don't know enough about it. I can speculate, but I'm expecting to be disappointed by it. I'm expecting to be sat here after June the 12th going, called it. If not, I'm going to be so happy. But I'd rather be cynical about it and be a smart ass afterwards.
I hope we're both wrong. I hope it kicks ass. I hope we're both wrong. I hope they do justice to the franchise. I don't know. Who knows?
Asgard's Wrath 2, the sequel to the critically acclaimed Asgard's Wrath. It's Asgard's Wrath 2.
Asgard's Wrath was one of the reasons why I got PC VR. And
really?
It was genuinely brilliant game. It has there's something almost Nintendo. I say that in the highest possible regard. There's a kind of although the style of it is very different.
Yeah.
There's something quite Nintendo-y about it. I think it's the closest I've played to if Nintendo sat down to make one of their kind of long form exploration levelly up games like Metroid or Zelda.
Yeah.
If they set out to do that in VR, it just felt Asgard's Wrath was one of the few games, very surprising, given that it came out quite a while ago now. It just felt like we might have like sort of skipped a VR generation and people are really starting to get their head around how to do like a proper sort of, if not AAA, then AA kind of quality game.
Yeah.
That was sort of long form and satisfying and well wrought. I loved Asgard's Wrath. I never got to get to finish it, but I'm sort of blown away that they're even trying to do what is going to be the sequel on the Quest.
I'm a little surprised, but it feels like an open world sort of game, and they've got all these different locations, different mythologies. They've got some of it happening in Egypt and stuff. And
yeah.
I worry about VR games when they go too wide. And I know maybe I shouldn't be worried. These guys, they're great developers. Asgard's Wrath was fantastic. And they've been working on it. They must have been working on it now for when was Asgard's Wrath released? Asgard's Wrath was released in 2019. So we're talking, it's been almost 4 years. So they've had a lot of time to work on it. And I don't know. Like I said, I worry about big multi, whatever open world VR.
Had Asgard's Wrath not been so accomplished, I would definitely be worried about. I would be more worried though if they'd announced they were doing Asgard's Wrath for the Quest, like the original game for the Quest. I'd be like, nah, I can't see that.
Okay.
I just can't see.
But you think if it's a game that's tailored to deal with the limitations of a Quest?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's no reason to think that. I think the developers are kind of. I mean, with it being called Asgard's Wrath 2 as opposed to, a different IP or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they're it's very, very well thought of, the original, with good reason. And I don't think they'd bite off more than they can chew. I'm very, very hopeful about this one, simply because the original was so fantastic. I don't think there isn't any way that the Quest could handle the original game. So them taking a step back from that level of fidelity but the thing about Asgard's Wrath is it was full of brilliant ideas, it was full of brilliant gameplay, and I'm a massive believer. I mentioned in quite a lot of my reviews that I'm a huge fan of Nintendo. I can see if they're trying to make something that feels maybe that's the equivalent of Breath of the Wild, which isn't like, it's not going to side by side, it's not going to be as have the same graphical fidelity as The Witcher 3, for example. But Breath of the Wild is a beautiful, beautiful game. And so if they're going that sort of route with Asgard's Wrath 2, but because the gameplay is king, I'm really, again, everything's cautious. Any kind of note I sound as
if the art direction looked, if it was stylized in a way where the art direction wasn't trying to look realistic, I think I would have been more comfortable. I would much rather they had decided, okay, we're gonna have it like honestly, I had no issue, for example, I don't know if you remember Journey of the Gods. Journey of the Gods had great graphics. They worked perfectly well for the Quest, and it was a big game in terms of, like different lands and whatever. And I think that's fine. I think that's the way to do it, as long as we're still dealing with headsets, standalone headsets with limitations like Quest. Like I said, I don't need super fancy RTX graphics, but I do want the art style to make me feel comfortable. I don't want it to look like it's trying to be real when it can't be real.
Sure.
I'd much rather it just didn't try.
I completely go.
I think that's
that,
part of my concern there.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see, I guess, how it goes.
I agree. We'll see.
But you're optimistic about it, generally speaking.
I am. Watch us be wrong about every single one of these previews, and I'll end up
possibly
loving the art style of Ghostbusters and giving Asgard's Wrath 2 a 2 out of 10. I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know.
Do we have any concluding overall statements or things? Were you disappointed? That's always going to be the question, isn't it? I saw some people asking about, like, hoping that there's going to be something about Grand Theft Auto in the reveal, and I'm just, the embargo, and I just wanted to don't raise your hopes. But yeah, where everybody's going to be asking, where's San Andreas?
To be honest, the legacy Grand Theft Auto games have been so badly treated recently. I'm kind of glad there hasn't been any news on the VR version, because if there isn't any news, then it's probably for the best.
Maybe.
I mean, I always, whenever we see one of these showcases, I am always disappointed. I'm always disappointed because there's not enough that makes me think, all right, the stuff that Oculus tends to foreground to me is often not the most impressive or exciting looking stuff out there. That doesn't mean there isn't an absolute ton of stuff coming out on the Quest, or
coming out that's actually going to be good. That
looks amazing. But I think they're away from the well trodden paths of Oculus's own PR, which is strange. I mean, I don't really understand why nobody's knocking down the door of, like, Dr. Beef's done some amazing VR versions of existing games, which more or less ready to go if they wanted to actually license them and spend some time doing that.
Just a tiny little bit of polish here and there, and they'd be absolutely fine.
And there's some amazing projects coming out that we have access, we've had access to because we're on a VR channel. So people are coming to us saying, "Hey, how about this?" There's loads of exciting stuff happening. But not most of it from the VR channel is stuff where you're either taking it with a heavy pinch of salt, or just you can't really get excited about it. There are certain notable exceptions for me this time around, but it's always kind of disappointing. The best things for me have been things like, Resident Evil 4, it was announced and then it was out, basically. And that was brilliant. There wasn't really any time for any hype, but it was genuinely fantastic. And I'm still surprised that there aren't more of those legacy games where the assets are sort of all, they're all already Quest friendly because they came out ages ago. And whereas I don't think the Quest should be a dumping ground for old games, Resident Evil 4 resolutely, absolutely was not that. It was a new version of an existing, very well thought of game. And that, to me, is exciting about VR because there's the possibility you're going to get the best versions of those games. So I'm always a bit like blindsided by what Oculus is putting out there as kind of, hey, this is what we're doing, and it always feels like a bit last minute and meh,
I'll say this: I'm excited about I Expect You to Die 3, Silent Slayer just because it's Shell Games, Ghostbusters also,
okay.
Underdogs just because the developers have already, as far as I'm concerned, they pulled off a really good Racket NX game, so I think it's going to be a quality production. I don't know if it's going to be my kind of game, but I think it's going to be a quality production. Vampire Masquerade Justice, I'm excited about. I don't really care about Dungeons of Eternity or The Seventh Guest, not my kind of things.
What?
Stranger Things VR, I'm excited about, again, just because it's Tender Claws.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bulletstorm, I'm excited about because I like the Xbox 360 version, so I'm thinking it'll work really well in VR. Assassin's Creed Nexus, I have no idea what to think. Asgard's Wrath 2, excited but suspicious. And what else is there? Little Cities, the more of the better. Power Wash Simulator VR, I can't get on board no matter what you say. Demeo Battles, I wish it was a DLC. That's where I stand in terms of these things. So how many titles did I mention that I'm actually excited about here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm excited about like 5 titles.
I'm, yes, excited / cautiously optimistic about 5. Call it 6 for me because Power Wash Simulator might just.
And Seventh Guest, switches. You're sort of looking forward to.
Oh no, Seventh Guest.
So for you, was like.
As I say, I'm not even a fan of Seventh Guest, but I actually think the VR version looked really solid and promising.
Okay.
And it's the sort of game that if it was just announced, if it was a completely virgin announcement, I would probably gravitate towards. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
overall, it feels better than the last gaming showcase. The last gaming showcase I remember there was nothing there.
We were struggling to say anything.
There was really nothing there. I remember the last gaming showcase, there was nothing there. The big highlight was, Ghostbusters, which we, hasn't materialized yet. They even remember there was a coming soon page at some point on the Facebook's official Metastore, and then they just removed it. Whatever. But yeah, so this gaming showcase, it feels better than the last one.
But it feels more like a gaming showcase than the last one.
But again, you're right. Some of the best titles, they haven't really been showcased in the gaming showcase. Like we ended up getting The Cabin sort of out of nowhere, and it was fantastic as far as I'm concerned. Breachers wasn't in a gaming showcase.
It's crazy because these are things which Breachers should be a system seller. No two ways about it.
Yeah.
The sort of thing you plonk people in VR and they go, oh wow, this is this is fantastic.
I'm looking forward to Dead Hook. I think Dead Hook should be really good. Joyway are a class act, and again, it wasn't in the last showcase. It's not featured in this showcase. It's kind of weird. I don't really understand the criteria for what gets in the gaming showcase is about as mysterious as the criteria for the curation of the official store. You get some clunkers, you get some good stuff. It doesn't seem. I just don't understand how these things are determined. I just don't get it.
It still seems to me to be weighted quite heavily towards games which sell like a flat screen experience. I mean, even games that I'm personally excited for, like Vampire.
Yeah.
It feels like a VR version of a game that you would get flat.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the things that get people excited about VR
are not.
They might not always transfer to sales, but it's actually the idea of it. I mean, I remember the first time thinking, I think the first time I actually reloaded a gun in VR was on the PlayStation VR demo disc, and the first time you clunk a clip in, and that sort of sells an experience.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. it's really light on that. All of the meta stuff. It's quite light on those sort of experiences. On those, they're not sort of saying, "Oh, you actually, use a whip in VR," or it just seems not really to sell the VRness of it very well, and that's a consistent bugbear of mine. And I think one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to, even if it's just a fairly average version of GTA, because the stuff that Rockstar have done already in VR, the like LA Noire, they're really thinking about. So you stand up and you sit down to get in a car, and then you're driving the car, and it's all stuff which is like enhancing that idea of sort of play and a virtual world. But it's not, and that's kind of lacking from a lot of the Quest stuff, the actual official gaming showcase, and it just absolutely does. I mean, we champion a lot of games which do exactly that. I think honestly, it should be a channel prerequisite that we just mention Tentacular in every video, because I think that's honestly, it's one of the best games I've ever played, and it really should be like the sort of thing that Oculus should say, right, if you buy a Quest, you can have 3 games out of this selection of things. Download Tentacular first, maybe one of the I Expect You to Dies, the Underpresents, shoe in, and then start selling those experiences, because people will come to them,
because it's
they
like
normally,
nothing they're going to experience in a game ever. It's just, both of those sort of titles, they feel completely unlike anything It doesn't feel like a VR version of a flat game. It just feels like its absolutely own unique thing.
Yes, and it's weird with Quest, because they don't seem to have confidence in what they've actually got. You don't get. I can't imagine Nintendo executives like frantically pacing, going like, "Yes, but we haven't got anything that's like Call of Duty." Do
you think it's a confidence thing? Because I'm not sure if it's a confidence thing, and I'm not. I feel that it could be. It could be that the most unique VR experiences just don't look good marketed on a flat screen. So maybe when they're thinking in terms of what are we going to market, what are we going to put, it's a video showcase. It's not a VR showcase. It's a video showcase. People are going to watch this on a screen. They're not going to, it's not a showcase that's happening in VR. I feel if the showcase were happening in VR, something like Tentacular and the Underpresents and even I Expect You to Die would feel, because they're games where they don't look that impressive once projected on 2D screen. If somebody just watches a screen and they've got these 2 big tentacles, splashing around in the water, it's not the same as when you feel it and when you're doing it yourself. And I feel that it might be not so much that they don't trust the games, but that they don't trust the viewer to imagine how this flat screen experience actually feels when you're inside it.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a valid point. I do think that's a valid point. I don't know how that justifies or explains the presence of Attack on Titan, or
no, it doesn't.
Because that
it doesn't. Nor does it explain the absence of things like Breachers and The Cabin and like Dead Hook from any showcase.
What you want, I mean, to me, again, one of those things that just sells is that most people are familiar, like, flat gamers know about Rainbow Six, but like that thing in Breachers where you spray that and you actually do that.
Yeah.
Everybody just goes, oh, yeah. I mean, I love that. I love watching people do the tutorial in Breaches for that reason. Just the minute that you press that button, it's never going to get old. And that is the sort of thing which surely does translate to, I mean, Breaches is a good looking game as well. Why they haven't been pushing that, I have no idea. But
the thing in Breachers when you push off from the window and then crash into it, the one game where I managed to crash into a window, land, and shoot somebody who was next to it, and total EKA moment. It just felt absolutely incredible. It really does. It just feels absolutely incredible. And even that, it would work on a, just seeing it on a 2D screen would still sell the experience. I don't know. The gaming showcase, I think they need to coordinate better. I mean, at least this time it's better than last time, at least. But I do feel that some of the
it's a low bar to clear.
It's what?
It's a low bar to clear.
It's a low
But
bar
it's
to clear.
better
The
than the
last
one.
one was.
I would really like, without it feeling like an ambush or whatever, I'd really genuinely like to sit down with somebody from Oculus, do an interview about like what what you're
How do
picking,
you?
why you're
What's
picking.
the process of working out?
Yeah,
what's the
because
showcase?
I'm genuinely interested because presumably there's like corporate reasons for things that we can't even. We're just there going like, this is an awesome game. Why aren't they showing that?
Yeah.
But there might be reasons which make sense on a corporate level, which I'd like to understand, if not approve of. So
yeah.
But yes, I mean, okay, yes, there's I think walking away from it, there's actually lots more to actually be excited about it than it seemed when I first saw it.
Yeah.
But it's not done a very good job then, because it's the hype is
it could be because
palpably absent.
It could just be because like they showed us like 22 trailers or 20 something trailers, and it might have been better served if it was quality rather than quantity. Like
Definitely.
either blow us completely away with quantity and show us like 50 titles getting done and just impress us with the sheer number of developers that are or narrow it down, focus on the things that are actually going to have an impact, but we're in an area where it's plenty enough to cause noise, but not plenty enough to be impressive as a number.
It's absolutely true.
And you have to sort of, because if you pick, like it could have been a list of 10 really strong titles, the 6 or 7 that we're looking forward to, plus 2 or 3 of the others that, might appeal to different people, like NFL Pro, maybe appeal, it's a different crowd. But I'm sure there's, there are people really excited about that. But it could have been, I don't know. I feel you either go for, shock and awe, we've got 60 titles coming up, or concentrate it into these sort of titles we're highlighting. It's not a gaming showcase of everything being made, because it isn't. And just maybe make it, these are the highlights, these are the, the games that we're really going to market this year. And then it's a more concentrated dose where almost everything that you see, you're excited about.
I absolutely agree. And I still don't really understand why Oculus are still they're kind of only tentatively pushing the App Lab thing. It's something that Microsoft did really, really well with the 360 and then kind of abandoned it. The what was it, the XBLA
I can't remember what it was called.
Game Pass or whatever. But just a little bit of hype. I was just thinking about the guy that we interviewed who's doing the Portal style game. Little things like that. It's a really exciting. It's a really exciting idea. And it wouldn't cost them anything to just give him a little bit of, exposure. But like then that, as you say, that number of games that are being developed for the Quest suddenly jumps. And without any extra expense, they can say, look, this is a really vibrant platform. But there's loads of stuff going on, and it becomes more interesting to the to a wider selection of people. I don't know. There's, but I also think with Meta, that it's all happening so fast for them and has been since the Quest was. I don't think they were expecting what happened with that. It seems very much like they're laying the tracks in front of the train as it's steamrolling ahead. So maybe there's an element of that as well. It's like, oh Christ, what's coming out? Ghostbusters video.
We'll see.
Interesting times. We live in interesting times.
Interesting times indeed.